So what are the side effects of creatine? Nausea, gastric upset and diarrhea tend to be the most common ones, and they're relatively instant, usually an indicator that you're not dissolving it properly or that you're simply having too much. For example, if you're trying to do a loading phase, which I don't recommend, and I'll explain why in the next video. Next thing, coming off creatine, is there any kind of loss in strength or muscle? The research says no. There is a loss of water, but there's no permanent changes in tissue, which is great. Does creatine cause hair loss? Yes, it might. We don't know specifically why. There's a suggestion that creatine increases the activity of 5-alpha reductase, which converts testosterone to DHT, which is a more potent form of testosterone that seems to be responsible for male pattern hair loss. It might not be the case. It's not like it definitely causes it, but it could accelerate it if you have a family history of hair loss. So if you are concerned, either don't take creatine or ask your doctor about 5-alpha reductase inhibitors, but it's not something I'd recommend trying to play around with these hormones. I mean, creatine's not so amazing that you have to have it at the expense of your hair if you really care about your hair. I don't know, I suppose hair or gains, up to you. Kidney function, does it worsen it? Now that's a myth. It's the data shows no effect on kidneys, either beneficial or detrimental. So there's no data showing any damage on the kidneys, but it will increase the excretion of creatinine. And that's because creatinine is a metabolite, it's a breakdown product of creatine. So it's not indicative of kidney damage. That's a false positive. So it's like eating loads of asparagus and then coming up positive on a pregnancy test. It's not because you're pregnant, it's because you ate too much asparagus. I don't know if that's a real example, but just to illustrate the point. So also alertness. It's not consistently confirmed in the data. We're not clear on the effects on the neurotransmitters, but there is kind of anecdotal interruptions to sleep quality as well. Fat loss inhibition. That's something that I'm not totally convinced by this. The data doesn't seem statistically significant enough to draw a conclusion on, but there is a potential pathway for creatine reducing the amount of mitochondrial uptake of fatty acids for oxidation. But the study that I saw wasn't calorie controlled, and it may just be statistical variation or some kind of effect on appetite as well. And the measuring of body composition was a bit dodgy too. So I wouldn't hold your breath. I wouldn't be too worried about creatine being the thing which is stopping you losing fat. If you wanted to be absolutely sure, you could always try with and without creatine when you're on a calorie deficit and see what the effects are. So next video, we're going to talk about how to take creatine.